Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about a real quick lesson that I think we all can learn from Noah's wife and his children. If you've been following this page in my journey the last couple of years, you've heard me talk about this account. It was an account in the Bible that I had really never even remembered, let alone talked about too much prior to what I've been through the last couple of years. But lately it's really risen to the top, and I've seen great lessons that we all can take from it. And so I want to draw some attention to that here today and emphasize some of the points that I think are important. You know, we all hear about Noah and the flood and how faithful he was. He was literally the only faithful dad left on the planet. And then after the flood, though, there's this other account called Noah and his sons. And like I said, I never really even remembered it growing up. It's kind of weird. You know, you find out that Noah gets drunk and passes out naked. And so as a child, just kind of, okay, don't really know what's going on there. And I've heard it explained by some people to say, well, it shows that God could even use Noah, a drunk, for his purpose. And I don't see it that way at all today. So I want to share what I think our God is trying to teach us from this account. You know, again, Noah's been through the flood, arguably the most traumatic experience a person could go through, and he was incredibly faithful. But afterwards, he self-medicates, and he has too much wine and gets drunk and passes out naked. And we see two reactions from his three children, from his family. And we're all descendants of Noah's sons. And so we see one reaction from his middle child, Ham, who takes advantage of his father in his most vulnerable state and draws attention to him and gossips about him and uses it as an opportunity to elevate his own status. Then we see the reaction from his other sons, Shem and Japheth, who do not gossip about him, who come from the vantage point of, you know, Dad's faithful. We know that. That's their starting point. And if Dad's hurting right now, there must be a reason for it. So they cover him up in his most vulnerable state and encourage and support him. When Noah wakes up from his drunken stupor, he yells at Ham and says, "Cursed be the descendants of Ham, that they'll be slaves." And I've shared this before, I know for me that when I first read that account, it kind of shocks you, because you think, Noah's the one sinning here. He's gotten drunk. Is he really in the right to be yelling at his son Ham? But again, the main point of the story is to assume or remember that Noah, Dad, in this situation, is faithful, a faithful servant of God. And rather than using it as an opportunity to gossip about him and kick him while he's down and shame him, just to elevate Ham's own status, that we should be more like the descendants of Shem and Japheth, who support a brother or sister or parent or child in a time when they are broken and laying on the ground. It's like Noah doesn't like that version of himself. He doesn't want to be broken and laying on the ground, but people don't just do things, and he's been through a horrible trauma, and so he self-medicates. And one of the best ways that people can recover from a trauma like that, or being maybe even stuck in a cycle of self-medicating, is to feel love and support from those around them, rather than pointing fingers at them. You know, I've shared before that that's why I don't actually even like why people calling addiction a disease. To me, that is a way of twisting it and saying that this person is just fundamentally broken, that that's just who they are. It's something they've inherited and they have this brokenness inside of them, rather than acknowledging that actually addiction is a symptom of underlying negative emotion and trauma, that something is causing someone to want to use a medication, or perhaps even, you know, this is why we do have chemical interventions in the counseling world, because sometimes people need those as they're trying to face the dragon and heal. It's always better to confront the dragon than wait for it to come to you, and thankfully there's gold on the other side waiting for you if you do that. So that's number one. But sometimes that's very painful as we're dragging out all those demons from the past that have been weighing us down. And also there can be chemical deficits that come as a result of, say, prolonged exposure to heightened levels of cortisol or adrenaline. And so trauma can change someone's brain chemistry and can definitely cause them to feel broken inside. So in those moments when perhaps we or a loved one looks like Noah, naked on the ground, drunk, it's not a time to shame them or gossip about them or use it as an opportunity to elevate our own status. It's a time for more love and more hugs. And getting to Noah's wife, what Noah's wife did not do in this situation, Mrs. Noah, is say, oh, Noah's drunk and passed out naked. I need to protect the children from him because he is so dangerous and so broken. We need to isolate away from him. Sometimes that can happen in today's world, especially if there are broken families and a split in the relationship. In a together home, it's all about supporting each other even more in the dark times. But sometimes it can degenerate into trying to point at the other person to elevate one's own status rather than showing love and support. And in this example between two parents, if we are like the descendants of Ham and pointing gossip and use it as an opportunity to shame that person and elevate our own status, or if Noah's wife had been like that, it would cause disorder for especially their children down the line. Conversely, one of the beautiful blessings that can come from someone being in a broken place, say a parent, is their children, yes, see them in a broken place, but then they can see their resilience in coming up out of that. And so we as parents, or any family, or even a family of families in the form of a church or a community of some kind, is to use it as an example to model support and love and lifting each other up in those broken moments rather than tearing each other down to elevate our own status. So let us be like Mrs. Noah. Let us be more like the descendants of Shem and Japheth rather than the descendants of Ham. The descendants of Shem and Japheth are blessed for how they handled that situation with love and support. And the descendants of Ham are cursed for how they handled that situation with pointing and elevating their own status selfishly, satanically even, I would say. So God give us the strength to reach out to those around us and to be seeking to heal from whatever trauma and negative emotion may be dragging us down, to voluntarily confront that dragon every day, realizing that it might be painful at first as we're walking into that fire, but remembering that it will refine us and that it will lead to growth on the other side. There's always gold waiting on the other side when you confront the dragon in its lair. But also then, if we're on the other side, we're looking for ways that we can support our brother and sister through that trauma that they're in and lift them up and encourage them when they're in those vulnerable places. It's all about showing love to one another. We are one. We're all connected to each other and to the one. May God give us strength to do that every day, to be truthful, but also to show love to one another. God be with you, witnesses.